What's up, you beautiful chuds, and welcome to the Let's Talk Horror Channel podcast, and welcome to the Creep Zone, where we have very honest, unrated, and unfiltered conversations about something from the world of horror. This one we're going back to, I was going to say right at the start of the 2000s. It's not quite right at the start of the 2000s, but it is in this time in horror where something that was happening in horror was like the big thing. You know, as we all know, what horror does is that it has something that becomes popularized, and they're like, let's make every fucking movie all about whatever it is that's become popularized. And of course, that's everything that happened during this time with the early 2000s. I mean, I suppose it sort of really happened at the end of the 90s. A lot of them were the fucking ghost movies, and then they quickly got rid of all the fucking ghost movies because then they were like, oh, this is working, so let's just move into something a little bit different, but do the same sort of shit. We get into exactly what I mean in a minute as well. But of course, you've clicked on it. You already know what this episode is about. We're talking about House of Wax. We're not talking about the original with Vincent Price. That was the first time I've ever done a Vincent Price.
That was a good impression, that, to be honest.
I thought it was quite good, actually. That's going to be like my go-to now, just a Vincent Price impression. But yeah, so we're going to be talking all about House of Wax, but not the original, the one from 2005. But with me to talk about this, I've got Colin. Colin is from the This Movie Deserves Better podcast. Did I get that right?
You got that bang on, smashed it.
This is what's happened now. I'm getting a little better because all I do is read it as slow as I possibly can as I've got it written down, which is why anybody who's watching the video version, they see me scrolling and scrolling just to make sure that I'm getting the name right because I'm so useless. But thank you for coming on the show.
Absolute pleasure to be here, and absolute pleasure to talk about House of Wax. I'm really excited to get into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, as we've already said sort of before we came on, this is a movie that is definitely a movie that has, you know, many topics to discuss. But it's definitely one of those movies from a time where horror really was trying to be fun. Whether it was good, whether it was bad, it really was trying to be fun. And you get some good, fun conversations out of it. And I'm hopefully going forward, you know, if Let's Talk Horror keeps going, then I'm going to try and delve a little bit more into this sort of era, this sort of decade, this sort of time with horror. Because as I mentioned at the start, there was something that kept on happening around this time, and that was reboots and remakes. And that's essentially what horror was for a long, long time. Until I was going to say until everybody got bored of it. Everybody got bored of it fucking well early anyway because they were so shit. But I think that was what the problem was, that they ran out of movies to remake and reboot that anybody would actually give a shit about. And then they fucked themselves over, as horror always does. And they're like, what's going to be the fucking next thing? But yeah, House of Wax was in that time of reboots, remakes, where they were shoving quite a lot of money into these movies. And it shows on the screen, and we'll talk about that. But maybe not necessarily in the movies themselves, especially a lot of them. But yeah, do you remember a lot of these movies from that time? Like, was this like you're growing up with horror, or
Yeah,
was this...
this was kind of my awakening. I'd say 1999 to 2005 for me was absolute peak horror. Definitely with Dark Castle Productions, who are the guys behind this movie, and of course Ghost Ship, 13 Ghosts, House on Haunted Hill, Gothica as well, just fucking very underrated film. These guys were... The idea behind them was that they were kind of harkening back to the gimmick horrors of the 50s. There was a guy, William Castle, I'm sure you've definitely heard of him, who was a director, producer, marketer, and he'd make all of his films a spectacle, an experience, and we'll probably get onto that a little bit later when we talk about Paris Hilton and the film kind of being built around her. They wanted to kind of bring back that vibe, and say what you want about them 4 or 5 films in particular. I'm not a fan of 13 Ghosts. I do think it's a bit of it's the shit one out of the bunch, but it is an amazing time. No matter what you think about any of these films, especially House of Wax as well, you walk away from it having an absolute wild time.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, as I said, a time where horror really was trying to. You're exactly right. Like create, you know, a spectacle. Like they were putting like pretty decent money behind it. You know, you can see in so many of these movies the production value behind it. The sad part is so many of these movies were shit. Like one of the standout shit ones was like Prom Night. And I remember the remake of Prom Night. Me and my partner went and watched that at the cinema, and we were both literally laughing like it was a fucking comedy because of how bad that movie is. And there is some of that in this movie where you do laugh at some of the delivery, and we'll talk all about that. But I would say that this is definitely one that, I mean, it's interesting because this still feels like a bit of an era that isn't really appreciated as much as what I think it probably should be. It's not really talked about as much as what, but also as I say all the time, you know, like the history of horror and everything, it's constantly moving. It's like just like time, it's constantly evolving, constantly moving. So of course, when if you're growing up around horror now, you're not growing up with these sort of movies, and horror is so different to what horror was and has been from the past, from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, every decade of horror. And that's why horror is so interesting, because it fucking changes like every decade. But I always do have, you know, a sweet little spot for these sort of movies. And also some of them, I mean, they're fucking great ones. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I've said this before, the remake, the reboot, whatever you
Chef's
want to say for
kiss.
that. I
Incredible.
fucking love that. It will always live in the shadow of the original. Of course it will. But that's a fucking stunning movie, great movie. One that I will absolutely cover down the line because I love it. It's funny that I'm sort of starting all this off with House of Wax, which is a bit mental, but oh well. But we're going to talk about it all anyway. So this movie, as I said, was released in 2006, I think. It's directed by a name that I'm never fucking going to get right. James Colette Thera. Absolutely fucking wrong. I apologize to them, but they're never going to hear or watch this anyway. But they directed the movie. It's starring and fucking A-list or a Z-list, however you want to call it, cast. Of course, we have Alicia Cuthbert. She was a fucking big crush of mine for a long time.
Yep.
I watched 24,
24.
and
Oh.
I watched it all the way through, and I've been rewatching it not too long ago. And Alicia Cuthbert from that and this movie has always been a big crush of mine. And also something for the ladies or anybody else, Chad Michael Murray. We go back to the lads or ladies, Paris Hilton, Jared Padalecki, Sam Winchester from Supernatural, Brian Van Holt, I don't know about him, Robert Richard, John Abrahams, and then a shitload. Basically, there's a shitload of people in this. Of course, this is what happened when we had these horrors, because that was one of the big things around this time. Like, there was a massive cast in so many of these movies. And of course, like you were saying, they try and create sort of that spectacle, aren't they? Where they have like a big cast, or like some of these people are known. You know, Chad Michael Murray, I think, was in a TV show.
One Tree Hill.
That's right. Yeah, Alicia Cuthbert, of course, 24, Paris Hilton. You know, I won't say much about that. Jared Padalecki, of course, Supernatural, and so on. So it's got a known cast in this, in a way. Like, you know, your grandmother's probably not going to know it unless they watch 24, then they might. But this movie, IMDb wise, it's 5.5 out of 10, which, you know, is sort of all right for IMDb.
Right, yeah.
The sad part, 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is definitely not a movie that people have watched and sort of, I mean, once again, I sort of get it, but at the same time, I don't think that it deserves that. There's movies that don't necessarily deserve that. And when I watch this, well, sometimes, and this would be interesting to talk about this, because I don't know, sometimes I think that I can sort of like, my judgment can be clouded because of where, of course, as I always say, wanting to make movies and so on like that. You know, part of my process when I watch movies is looking at the process of the creation process, and the production design on this movie, which of course we'll talk about, is so fucking good. And it looks great. This is a great looking movie. And sometimes I've got to balance like how it's made and all that sort of stuff, with whether the actual like movie is actually any good. And sometimes, you know, trying to do the balancing act between that sort of thing gets a little bit difficult. So with me, yes, it should be higher than Rotten Tomatoes, but not everyone has the silly brain that I have. So you know what I mean? But Google synopsis wise, a group of friends stranded on the way to a football match approach an abandoned wax museum for help. Sort of, it's a bit wrong. But there's the events that unfold find them running from the murderous brothers who managed the place. That's basically what Google
Is that
said.
it? Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. As usual, Google's done a fucking blinder there. One of the things that I love to ask my guests straight away is, do you remember when you first saw this movie?
2005, 2006. I would have been 14, 15. So I was probably a little bit too young to go see this in the pictures. But what we used to do, we used to live around the corner from a rental shop. And every Friday night, everyone would be off work, everyone would be back from school. We'd have a family movie of the week, and this one ticked everybody's boxes. It had the horror slasher element for me and my mum. It had the TV stars, the hunks, Chad Michael Murray, Jared Padalecki, had that for me sisters. And then my nan was a massive Vincent Price fan, so she thought she was getting a bona fide.
And she got at the end and she was like, "Where's Vincent Price?"
Yeah, and she thought she was getting a Vincent Price homage, and how wrong she was.
That's it. Yeah, I think. Well, luckily, I mean, I'm old. So I did see this at the cinema. And yeah, this is just a good time for horror in regards to. I mean, every time's good for horror, but there was just something about going to the cinema to you know, around this time with, you know, with horrors, as I said, that they were putting a bit of money into. This was in an interesting time where you know, it was all about everything that was still like, so much was still practical, the practical sets, practical effects. And then it was also the combination of CGI coming in, you know, like now, of course, so much is CGI replacement, you know,
Yeah.
whereas back then it was very much, and also the CGI replacement in this, anything they use is fucking trash. And we'll get into that anyway, because you can tell like the difference between how good things look when they're practical, and then you have any CGI bits and you're like, yeah, you remember you're back in 2006. But yeah, there was just such an interesting time, you know, like being of age now, you know, and going to the cinema. Like when this came out, I would have been like 20, I think, something like that. I mean, yeah, maybe like 20, something like that. I don't know. I can't be bothered to work out maths, but I was something like 20. And of course, every week down the cinema, watching something new, a new horror, most of the time a remake or a reboot for the next 10 fucking years. And yeah, but you know, it was just such a good time, and there was just something about these movies that you could almost collectively, with the people that you went with, you collectively enjoyed it, but also knew that it was a bit shit at the same time. And that's what I do really like about these sort of movies. But of course, one of the things, obviously, we get into the meat and gravy of what the podcast is. This is where I do a complete run through of everything that happens in the movie. The reason I do it is because you tell me you like me doing it, because it means that me and Colin, at some point, we're going to be talking about your favorite scenes in the movie, the things that you like. We might bring, you know, thoughts into things that you may have never even thought about, or I might be, as usual, a fucking idiot and not think about anything that happens in the movie, and you're like, why is he not thinking about this? Which is probably going to be the case. So with this movie, we open the movie with, of course, a great score. I'm going to get to that later on as well, because the music in this is fucking incredible. But we get to that because, boy, do I miss music like this. And it's 1974, and someone is making a face made of wax. House of Wax. One of the kids is an absolute angel. The other is a devil, so much so that he has to get tied and gaffer taped to a chair just for breakfast. Interesting start straight away. We're almost like sort of into it, where they're like, by the way, these are going to be the bad guys of the movie, but they're kids at the moment. And then, of course, we jump to where we do in a minute. But that kid's a little shit.
I think Dark Castle get their openings so right. The openings of Ghost Ship, obviously iconic. House on Haunted Hill is great. Gothica, great. this film opens with child abuse, and
Yeah, I know. I just
y-
one of my notes here was don't hit kids.
yeah, it's we'll get to it towards the end, but to me it's strange how a film can open with child abuse and you can walk away with an absolute smile on your face.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's like don't hit kids, but also you've pretty much forgotten of it by the end of the movie. And then we cue, of course, the melting title card, House of Wax, motherfuckers, punk rock, motherfucking shit. I love it. It doesn't say motherfuckers, obviously, but for me it does. Then we cut to from 1974 to the year 2000 and something, and then of course the Deftones hit, and then straight
Minerva.
away, I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, Deftones have always been one of my favorite bands, the sexiest music that's ever been created. And as soon as Deftones hit, when I was, I was just like, I love this movie already. And then of course some hot women. Oh, and of course some hot men for anyone. Of course, there's something for everyone in this movie. And it also does a good job at setting up the characters. And what I mean is, it does a good job at setting up characters that you fucking hate. Because I don't like pretty much anybody in this fucking movie. Because they're all insufferable. Because unfortunately, they are. I talk about this quite a lot, but even back in like the early 2000s, they were doing it where you're introduced to so many of these characters, but they're only there for one reason, right? In the 80s and stuff like that, you had characters that you actually really liked and you were really sad when they died. When we got to 2000s, you're like, everybody's got to fucking die in some crazy way. And so, quite honestly, when I was watching it, especially even for my prep, I was just like, these characters are pretty fucking insufferable. Like most of them, they're all fucking douchebags. I don't know if you think the same way. You might fucking love them.
No, every single one of them. The comic relief, Dalton or Dalston, I believe his name is. He's Bobby from
The guy
Scary
from Scary Movie.
Yeah. I thought he was great comedic relief, and I didn't actually mind him, but fucking hell, yeah, everyone was terrible.
It's just a whole movie for like sexy people pouting, and and that's pretty much it. But they head off as one of them looks like they're gonna get their head off whilst driving, because they're driving and then they see a sign for a wax museum. Of course they head there, but before heading there they decide to camp out and they do cheesy movie shit, like basically they're throwing American football. Like there's no, like, once again, this is just like basic like insufferable character shit, where they're just doing the movie shit, like we're fucking best mates, like we love each
Smoking
other and all that.
weed, drinking beers, telling
Yeah,
jokes, having
got
a
a fucking
dance.
video camera
I
that I
think that
don't understand why.
isn't Disturbed playing in the background through the scene as well, which is
Yeah,
so mad.
something like that. I mean, I will go on to the score, but then I'll talk a little bit about the soundtrack, like,
Yeah.
like as we get later on as well, when I get to like general conversation, because you can't fucking knock that shit. You know what I mean? But you can knock the fact that like their character development is them like almost doing an intro to a fucking sitcom of them throwing an American football, and they could just put some cheesy theme over the top of it, and then it's like a start to a sitcom. But yeah, so I mean, basically, they're having the best of time being best friends. And then as as I said, they head off. They see the thing. They do go camping. But then already tensions are running high because we've got Elisha Cuthbert and Jared Padalecki. They're dating Chad Michael Murray, of course. Shaved head, so he's got to be the fucking edgy one. You know what I mean? Like, that was like a choice that he made. He was just like, oh, if I'm gonna be this fucking badass, I'm gonna shave my head. Although I have no idea what he did before, so he could have shaved his head in that. I don't know if he had short hair, long hair. I don't know. I could be talking shit, but of course he's got to be edgy if he's got his shaved head. And of course tensions are running high between those two. There's fisticuffs almost, but Elisha Cuthbert, of course, absolutely stunning. She saves the day, but then we learn a little bit more about the brother-sister relationship, because Chad Michael Murray, Elisha Cuthbert, they're brother and sister. And they also have throw a line in where he says that you're the good twin and I'm the evil twin. And that bit made me laugh, because it was just like, do they think that we're going to think that they're the twins at the start from 1974? Because it doesn't fucking make any sense. And I remember I was watching that the other day, they were like, And then I almost thought to myself as well, it's just like in 2006 when I was sitting there, I really hoped that I wasn't a fucking idiot that thought that. And knowing me, I probably was, but you're like, yeah, that doesn't work so much. I know you've shoved it in there, like, but they're not going to be the twins from the start of the movie because that was 1974 and it makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Um, but yeah, there is there's a bit of friction between them, friction between the boyfriend, Jared Padalecki, and so on. So it sets it up pretty well, I would say. As much as they're insufferable and the acting is pretty awful, most of it, but it does set up the movie quite well. Do you
Yeah,
think
no,
so?
yeah, definitely. Before we, well, I was going to bring this up whilst we were chatting before the pod, but I thought I'd save it until we actually got on the pod. But funnily enough, I am a twin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was called a hell of a lot the evil one out of the two, out of the two
I
of
was
us.
just about to say, who were you?
So I always felt for Chad Michael Murray a little bit in this film. You can tell that Alicia Cuthbert always got the love from her parents. She was the good one, and yeah, so I really felt for him there. But it does a really good job of setting up these characters. Listen, they're not. It's not high art, and they're not breaking new ground. Everyone is a stereotype of someone we've seen before: the stoner, the smart one, the bad boy.
The
Do you know what I mean? The jock. Yeah, it's nothing new to us, but like you said there, the acting is weak, and I think that's because they were all television stars. I don't think maybe in later years, but I think at this time, I don't think any of them were ready for a really big budget movie. Obviously, everyone gets their break, and most people get their breaks in horror. But I just think, yeah, some of the acting is pretty bad, especially in the
and
opening
sound
scenes.
Yeah, and the sad thing is as well is sometimes the acting can only be as good as the script, and
Yeah,
the script in this
yeah.
is absolutely fucking awful. Like this is a fucking awful. So the line, I mean, throughout this, there are some things where I've got lines that
Mm.
stand out, and you're like, trying to deliver that line as an actor must not be the easiest thing in the world because it's so fucking shit. So it's almost like, I agree with you where it's just like, a lot of them, making the jump from TV to movies is actually, a lot different to what a lot of people think, but at the same time, some of the lines they're like, oh, by the way, you've got to say this line now. You're probably thinking this is fucking bad writing. And I mean, a lot of the writing in this is absolutely awful. But while they're all being chummy, and of course there are some tensions running high, all of a sudden a breeze comes in and it stinks like absolute shit. They all smell it, and I wonder what it could be, but we don't find out just yet. Also, for no reason whatsoever, there's a video camera, as I've already mentioned. One of the guys has got a video camera. He's being a fucking perv. Doesn't really play a part in this whatsoever. I don't know why there's a video camera there, but I don't know whether it was just trying like either they were like, we've got to try and give this guy something to do,
I
or
think
he's
they
just
said
like, I
they
think I
wanted
should
to
have a
film
video
some of the
camera.
football game that they were going to, or something like that. But
Well, there we go. See, this is why it's nice having people that actually pay attention on it, because now you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, they got a video camera to do the football game. What a fucking mug I am. Sometimes I really don't I just thought he was there just to be a fucking pervert on Alicia Cuthbert.
I mean, he is
But
that as well, yeah,
but
definitely.
he is that, exactly right. Yeah. But all of a sudden, a truck turns up with his full beams on. The son of a bitch, turn them down on it, and in there, he's no the person. There's obviously somebody in there, but somebody's sitting in there. They're not moving. And then, of course, the edgy Chad Michael Murray with his shaved head. He chucks a bottle at it, and the truck fucks right off. So then someone has got the camera and he's filming them, but it's not the pervert from Scary Movie. It's another pervert, but maybe it's the guy in the truck. Yeah, obviously it's the fucking guy from the truck that we see later on anyway. But yeah, somebody's going around and filming. It's one of those moments where it's like, it's always quite funny because you're like, it's trying to like make it somewhat creepy and stuff. But the problem with the movies like this, I never found them creepy. They're just sort of meant to be cheesy fun. So I never found them like creepy. And this is one of those scenes where you're like, when it pans and then you see that it's like, you see the guy that's lying in there with Chad Michael Murray, his best mate. then you're like, oh, that's supposed to be creepy, and I'm just like, nah, this is just a bit fucking weird, isn't it? But but there we go. Anyway, so they're getting sort of filmed, but obviously not by the guy from Scary Movie. Does a bear shit in the woods? I don't know, but at least Alicia Cuthbert does, because anyway, she doesn't take a shit, but she does piss in the woods, and then they smell that horrible smell again. But this time they do go and investigate, when all of a sudden Alicia Cuthbert, she takes a tumble down the hill and is sliding into a giant crater of animal meat and bones. But of course, she's saved just in time. Then the truck turns up with a guy who is basically, he chucks another animal corpse. This is like their burial ground for like roadkill or whatever it is, you know. And into I've called it the death pit. And then they basically, this guy turns out and they're like, oh, what the fuck is that in there? And obviously it's a hand, and then the guy pulls it out and it's like a mannequin hand and so on like that. And then but this guy's of course the most stereotypical redneck that you could possibly have in it. They've dirtied him up. They make him almost incoherent in pronunciation and so on like that. Although I can't say any fucking words. What can I say? But you know what I mean? Like, he's just so stereotypical.
He's almost like I can't remember his name, but he's almost like the guy from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one who gets in the car with them and starts acting weird, talking about head cheese and cuts his hand. It just seems like they've just copy and pasted that character with a completely different actor. I didn't mind him. I don't mind the old hillbilly trope. I love a bit of wrong turn as well, like that kind of vibe. So I didn't actually mind him too much, but yeah, he's a fucking cardboard cutout, definitely.
Well, that's it, and I do actually quite like, and you're exactly right. Like, what I like is the difference in turn that they actually do with his character that we come to in a second, because obviously Sam Winchester, Jared Padalecki, or whatever you want to fucking call him. I've got a zillion names for him. And Alicia Cuthbert, they do hitch a ride with this guy because one of the things they find is the fan belt in Jared Padalecki's car has been basically fucked up, and they've got to go to the local town and so on. And I do sort of like the fact that they're doing that thing where they're making out like the guy's got a knife and they're trying to make out like he's a creep and he's going to do something horrible to him, but he's not horrible, you know what I mean? Like, he's not horrible, or he's just like a normal guy that lives where he is. They've just for the movie created a stereotypical character, as they always are. And once again, you're almost like, well, I know that I'm like, actually they're the dickheads, you know what I mean? And like, so once again, it adds to like the insufferable characters that so many of these people were in these sort of like reboots and remakes, where you're like, yeah, these people sort of need to die, because even to like people who are giving them a lift, they're fucking horrible. You know.
But what I will say though is, if I was Jared Padalecki, I would not let my girlfriend, who's Alicia Cuthbert, sit in the middle next to this guy. Like,
he's a bad boyfriend.
Yeah,
yeah, he's a bad boyfriend.
Not a chance.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're exactly right. But they do make it to Ambrose. Ambrose is the small town of the movie, where seemingly there is absolutely no one. Well, that's until that they meet the man in black, who's definitely a Johnny Cash fan. And he owns the garage and can absolutely get them what they need. That's what he tells them. We cut to a scene where somebody's got their own Madame Tussauds going on. And because that's what a lot of this place feels like. It's like a whole town of Madame Tussauds. Basically, they're paying a bit too close attention to the detail of the boobies. We basically cut to a scene where somebody is creating what everything that's going on, and it's just like the perviness of what this time was. And rather than like showing you around, like, once again, and I'll talk more about it later, when we get to overall thoughts, but the production design in this movie, once again, before it was all using CGI for everything, it's so good. And this place where he's doing all the wax stuff and everything like that looks great.
Incredible.
And it looks so cinematic, and it looks so detailed, and it looks so dirty and grimy and all that sort of stuff. And it really, like, you can't help but like keep on looking at every inch of the frame, because there's so much going on. And I absolutely love that. The sad thing is that we don't get to experience every inch of the frame, because every inch of the frame is taken up by wax boobies that he's putting too much detail on. So unfortunately, once again, it comes down to the perviness of the time of horror. Although it's always been a bit like that, hasn't it? Unfortunately. But we're back with, Alicia Cuthbert and Sam Winchester. Told you I called him that. Before they head to the garage, heading to the house of, they head into the house of Wax, in an awful delivery of the line. Basically, we get like a line where Jared Padalecki like turns around, looks at the camera, and he goes, "It's Wax," like literally. And it's so fucking bad. And once again, it comes down to like the fact that like it's just awful writing. So you sort of feel sorry for these people that have got to say these awful lines. But there's a lot of it in that movie. But it's so interesting that they like. Once again, it's like there's so many of these movies where these things sort of happen, and these characters are just thick as shit. And they don't even give a fuck about what they're doing because they turn up this place that they've never been, don't know what's going to happen. It's already a little bit fucking weird because there's no one there apart from Johnny Cashman. And then they're like, fuck it, let's just go to the House of Wax. Nothing bad can happen.
Yeah, I mean, they deserve everything that's coming to them. Just walking into a church, a funeral's going on. They're walking into an unlocked museum and think, fuck it, let's just go for a mooch round. Doesn't Jared start burning some of the little mini Wax statues around as well?
Yeah,
you just think,
little fucking pyromaniac.
Yeah, what a knobhead!
I know, disrespectful motherfuckers. And the House of Wax, of course, is cool and super creepy because, of course, there's like the wax. Because the thing is it's always funny, isn't it? Because as the viewer, like what the fuck is happening, right? Like they've got these things super detailed. They're not professional Madame Tussauds people. We know that they're going to be like real people. It's always funny when you have people in that situation in the movie where they haven't got a fucking clue. So they're walking around and he's poking it and he's like, oh, they're really lifelike. Of course they fucking are. It's people. But they never know that in the movie and it's always really funny. But they're going around. Also, we do get a quick shot where we see the high chairs from the start of the movie. Just in case we didn't know what was going on already. Because, of course, we know what the fuck is happening. We do get the shot of that anyway. And then also Alicia Cuthbert, she gets like a jump scare on her because you see one of them with a melty face out the window. And then they basically she's creeped out. She fucking legs it. Back at the garage, the man in black turns up and what they need is in the house. So they need the fan belt. He's like, oh, actually, it's not in my garage, which is mental. Being a mechanic and that, or whatever he is. So he's like, oh, he's back at the house. Obviously, they're morons, so they decide to go back with him rather than being like, well, we'll just wait here, you go and get it. They go with him. Of course they fucking do. And then Sam Winchester goes into the house with the man in black, who, like in most, like the same as like you've already mentioned when they went into the House of Wax itself. He's just walking around the fucking house like the nosiest bastard in the entire world. Like, one, don't go in the house. Two, he's left Alicia Cuthbert outside of the house, like almost as if he's doing her a favour. But you're like, well, you're leaving her anyway. We're in a place that you have no idea what could happen to her.
I know, he just wants to go to the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, I just need a piss. And then he just walks around the house and just keeps being a nosy bastard. And you're like, yeah, these people are insufferable. Like they're just dickheads, and that's how so many of these characters were in this sort of time where you're like, when they die, you sort of like don't give a fuck whatsoever. And you're sort of almost, sometimes the characters are so insufferable, you're like just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's walking around the house, and then just being a nosy bastard. And then we do cut back to Chad Michael Murray and the guy from Scary Movie, where we found out Chad Michael Murray covered for this guy. So now this is where they've sort of gone from like, oh, he's the edgy guy to being like, he's actually trying to be a good guy and a friend, but he's basically covered up from this guy stealing a car. Was it stealing a car or something like that?
Yeah, they got caught with a stolen car and Dalton was the one that was driving, and Chad Michael Murray, being the boy that he is, took the hit because he is considered the bad boy. He's already got a record, and Dalton is on the sports team, so he didn't want him to take the rap for it. So that was quite a nice thing to do, really.
Yeah, exactly. The edgy haircut. He probably got that when he was in like Disney or whatever he was in or whatever at the time. But back in the Man in Black's house, and Padalecki is still being a nosy fuck, but not for long, as the lights do go out. and as he walks around in the dark, of course they're doing the thing where he can't see, so he's going around and like trying to do things, you know, like trying to figure out where he's going. As the viewer, we can see. It's a bit like that bit in Silence of the Lambs, you know what I mean, where
Just
like
not
we
that
can
well
see.
done.
Yeah, yeah, but just not that well done. To be fair, I do like I mean, one, the acting's not great because like he's not doing enough of like, I don't know where the fuck I'm going. And it's, you know, of course, yeah, nowhere near as done as well because you know what's going to happen. Although it's done in quite a cool way, but I do like there's something about the color grading here that I quite like on the film itself. Like they've done sort of like bleaching to the film and so on like that. So it basically like they've tried differentiating it from the rest of it rather than going, by the way, it's all the same coloring as what the rest of the movie is, but you're supposed to pretend that he can't see what the fuck's going on. I do like that fact
Yeah.
they try and differentiate it, and it's quite effective because they do this sort of like look where you can see his eyes more and so on like that while he's walking around absolutely scared shitless. But as of course he can't see anything, but we can, and we see somebody emerge from a door in, you know, a trap door or whatever it bloody is. He comes out with some scissors and then does one of the worst things you can do. I think the worst two things that you can do in horror movies: kill dogs or do anything to hurt dogs, and cut somebody's Achilles heel. That's like the worst two things that you can do. I mean, I suppose what's okay. Let's do it. Top 5 worst things in horror: killing dogs, doing the Achilles heels, maybe something to do with eyes. That might be another one.
Oh yeah.
Maybe something to do with nails.
Nails being pulled. Oh, people scratching.
Now we got one more. What we got? What is the other thing that's banned in horror? Okay, doing horrible stuff to kids. There we go.
Yeah.
Although at the start of this movie they beat the shit out of a kid, so there we go. It's already done that as well, fucking motherfuckers. But there we go. But yeah, so Sam Winchester, he gets his Achilles heels cut. Never fucking nice whatsoever. And then he gets stamped to absolutely fuck by someone who looks like Tommy Wiseau. So if you know,
I was going to say the exact same thing as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm glad you say that. So, for anybody who doesn't know who Tommy Wiseau is, or Wiseau, however, there is a movie called The Room. If you don't know what The Room is, you fucking should. Because it's one of the greatest shit movies that's ever been made. Sometimes some people consider it to be the greatest shit movie that's ever been made, but I've seen some more. But Tommy Wiseau is an absolute icon without ever knowing that he was a fucking icon. But anyway, he made a movie called The Room. He looks just like the guy that's in this, who's the one that has the melty face. So I'm glad that you thought the same thing, because I didn't know if I was just going to be a mental.
No, it's very uncanny. You're half expecting him to pop up and go, "I did not wax her. I did not."
yeah. Oh, hi, Jared. But that's it. Yeah, I would have loved that. But anyway, Alicia Cuthbert, she's still outside the house waiting because Jared Padalecki, one, he's dead or getting his Achilles heels cut, and two, a shit boyfriend for leaving her out there. She, of course, has no idea what's happened. The man in black who has changed his attire, still wearing black though. He's gone like, what was the point of fucking changing? He had nice clothes on and now he's gone and got his mechanic gear on and he's still wearing black. So this guy really loves, I reckon this guy's playlist is fucking Johnny Cash, 9 Inch Nails, maybe a bit of Marilyn Manson. Although it fucking is Marilyn Manson.
It is in the garage. Yeah.
We get to that. So I'm fucking right. I've got something right already. I just thought about it. But yeah, she has no idea. He comes back, and then he's getting like right pissed off with her because she locks him out the car. Obviously, it's his car. He's probably a bit annoyed by it. And then after a struggle, she tries to drive away, but absolutely mugs herself and gets stuck. She does that typical movie thing where apparently no one can fucking drive in a movie whatsoever. And the second they get in the car, whether they reverse, whether they go forward, crash it immediately. There's nothing they can do. Of course, it's for the purpose of the movie because other things in the movie have got to fucking happen. And then we get a really thing. So we get one of the classic horror movie tropes that I really fucking hate, which is where time doesn't matter in horror movies. So we get the shot of where she's in the car after she's fucking crashed it after a second, and she get a shot of her in the car and she does that horror trope thing where she turns on the lights and then he's there. Then he does a really cheesy thing where he bangs on the hood of the car just so you know he's there. But then she then goes out the window in the back of the van, right? And it takes fucking forever for her to get from where she is to go out the window to get out the back of the van to then sod off. And he's literally just at the front of the fucking car. And this is, I really hate this as like a trope in horror, because you know that that guy would literally be there in an instant if he's trying to get her. But he doesn't even fucking bother. He's just like, she just gets, you know what I mean? And that's one of those sort of like classic horror movie tropes that I'm like, because that comes down to filmmaking, doesn't it? It comes down to like, that's your decision where you're like, well, she's got to go from the car and then she's got to get from this bit to this bit, and then obviously this is where the movie goes. But then they haven't really thought about like the most logical way of doing it. They've done the movie version, the horror movie version, where they're like, we show that he's there, but he's going to do fucking nothing, and she's going to get away. And yeah, it does really annoy me. But she gets out the back of it and runs off. And yeah, he would have absolutely caught her. But he just decided not to. Anyway, Sam Winchester, he's getting dragged away, and he's getting his own spa treatment by Tommy Wiseau, because he's getting waxed all over him. And it looks really cool, and the design work and production design and everything, it looks great. It looks so fucking cool. And this is once again the benefit of having these sort of early mid 2000 movies where they look so fucking good. And this looks great.
It's very much along the lines of like Hostel and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You can at times you can literally smell the room that they're in. You can feel the dirt and the grime in that room, and that head, it's almost like a Saw head trap type thing mixed with Joey Jordan's mask with all the spikes in that in. It's just that the contraption is so confusing, but it looks absolutely terrifying. I really felt for Wade here. Like, yeah, he was a shit boyfriend and he was a little bit of a dickhead, but he got the worst kill out of everybody in this film. I think what a rough way to go. I thought we'd still be alive at the end of it, but what a way to go.
Yeah, exactly. And he gets his like eyebrows waxed off and everything like that. Like, it is the worst spa treatment day. You know what I mean? Like, this is you don't want to go here if you're going to treat yourself. You know, there's no happy endings here. There is just you're gonna get entombed in wax. But Alicia Cuthbert, she's still on the run. She's heading through this small town. She goes into the church, where obviously at the start of the movie we see the church man in black, Johnny Cashman. He's there. He gets pissed off with him for intruding, but we think it's real at that point. But of course, we go into the church now and then find out that everybody there is made of wax. And then the man in black is he's back there. He's hot on her tail, but he manages to find her hiding. But she gets away. Once again, he's shit at finding people. And then we do get once again, there's loads of like really cool shots in this, because there is, you know, as I said, it goes back to this time, like the way that these movies were made. They were very, very visually stunning movies, very visually creative, really well done. And we almost get like the cool sort of like, I mean, I can't remember that film. I can't remember if that film was after or not, but 30 Days a Night, where it has one of my favorite shots in cinema, where we've got the shot going over top, and it's the headshot of the snow and the blood everywhere, and the vampires are ripping everybody to fucking shreds, and you're just seeing this moving over top camera. We get that sort of shot in this, where you know, he's going through the town, and then like he's trying to get Alicia Cuthbert, and it's that cool like creativity of filmmaking that I always say, like, it's a shame because I don't know if we have that as much anymore. You know, a lot of horror now, you know, isn't necessarily made with as much form of creativity and uniqueness. You know, a lot of it, even some of the films that are out at the moment that are very good movies, there's not that much visually creative about them. A lot of it is just, you know, point and shoot and doing things, making sure you've got the right lenses and all that sort of stuff, you know, the standard filmmaking stuff. But, you know, there was a lot of creativity. I mean, the thing is, horror is supposed to be unique. Horror is supposed to be creative in what it's trying to show you. And when it's not, for me, it's always a little bit of a shame. And I do like the fact that even like a 2-3 second shot like that in this movie still in 2026 stands out to me, watching it now and go, what a fucking cool shot, you know, even though it means nothing and it doesn't, like, it's not an important part of the movie and doesn't tell you fucking anything. It's just like a really cool shot. It shows the fact that they fucking worked hard making this town, and we'll talk about that. And it's just a way of showing it rather than just having him walking into the camera and doing something to her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, and I was going to kind of bring that up in my overall thoughts is you just don't get films like this anymore where they are creative, where the production design team will go out and build a town, and like you mentioned before, with color grading and things like that. I think movies these days are far too dark. I think I've got all right eyesight, to be fair, but when I watch some of these films, I just feel like I can't see a fucking thing. But films of this era, Hostel, House of Wax, Ghost Ship, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they all use color really, really, really well. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. These days, there just doesn't seem like. Don't get me wrong, there's some great films out now. I'm not knocking anything modern, not at all. But just some of them lack that spectacle, that creativity, that which is why we're talking about films from 2005 today. I feel like with some modern horror, when in 10 years' time, nobody's going to be talking about it. But I think films of this ilk, House of Wax and the like, there'll be two people just like us in 10 years' time still talking about it. And that comes to the creativity and the practical side of things in this film, which, of course, like you said, we will get onto later.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It just, you know, movies like this look like movies, you know, and they look like cinema and they look like movies. And it's sometimes, yeah, it feels like we lose that. And that's not necessarily just in horror, but it's just, you know, I think, and I'll talk about this a lot, but I think like the advancement in technology, because everybody can sort of almost have everything and have what they want now in respect. Obviously, not all the time, but you know, if you're given a decent budget, you can almost have sort of what you want. But what that does is then it pushes creativity aside rather than forcing creativity, and then that's why when you get movies like this, like we've now just sat here having a 5-10 minute discussion about one fucking shot that's over the top, but that's what makes movies like these, you know, better, because you have those moments where you sit there and go, yeah, what a really fucking cool shot, well done, you know what I mean, rather than going, that looks like shit.
Yeah.
Which we will get to, because there are some things that look like fucking shit. But anyway, but the man in black, he does end up capturing her, takes her back to the garage, and he takes her downstairs to his dungeon of whatever it is. I don't know if that's where he jacks off or what he fucking does down there. I don't know. Although there are pictures on the wall, so maybe that is where he has a good old Tommy Tank. But then also, like I was exactly right earlier on, he puts on some fucking Marilyn Manson, once again, banging fucking tune. Talk about that later. CMM, Chad Michael Murray, and his mate turn up finally, but don't do a very good job at all looking for her. And you know, I mean, she would, as you would, for some reason, they decide, even though they're best mates, they split up. Of course, they've got to split up because it's a horror movie and someone's got to fucking die. People don't stick together in horror. We all know that. You've always got to fucking go on your own in some town you ever don't even know. Back with the man in black, and he super glues Alicia Cuthbert's mouth together. That fucking sucks. And if I read it right, I think that it was real glue that Alicia Cuthbert wanted him to actually glue. So I mean, I wouldn't fucking do that. So fair play to her. But yeah,
Commitment.
I mean,
yeah,
I think
commitment to the bit.
that's mental. Yeah, I think that's mental that she fucking glued her own mouth. Like, well, they just glue my mouth up. Bloody hell.
But it works, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Really,
yeah, you're exactly right. And then the man in black, he leaves the garage, and Chad Michael Murray turns up and questions him. He's not that all convinced, but Alicia Cuthbert manages to get out of the shackles she's in from this guy's wank dungeon to try and make some. She basically goes to try and make some noise. There's a drain, and she basically puts her hand out the drain, but it goes horribly wrong because the man in black pretends that he's trying to do up his shoelaces, but he cuts the top of her finger off. I like that bit because you actually see it rather than like cutting away from it. And yeah, I mean, I did really. I was hoping that you were going to get like the really over the top blood spray coming out. But yeah, so he cuts the top of her finger off, and then also she does manage to rip the glue off her mouth, which obviously, as I said, I assume was real, that she actually did it, which is fucked up. Looks great, as you know, it's effective, but I wouldn't do it myself. But then she does scream, which causes Chad Michael Murray and the man in black to have a bit of fisticuffs. Chad Michael Murray manages to get inside the garage and find his sister to get her out. the douchebag friend who decided to walk around the town on his own, that he doesn't know, of course, where the fuck he is. He's also headed into the House of Wax, where he sees Sam Winchester sitting at a piano. I do like the fact that obviously when he first goes into the House of Wax, he plays the piano, and then obviously that's where he gets set up. And the guy, I mean, this is mental, but the guy, obviously Jared Padalecki, he's sitting there, and he's obviously been turned to wax. He's sitting there at the piano, and the guy basically keeps on poking his fucking face and then clawing at his face. And of course it's for the movie, but you're like, stop fucking poking him. Like, come on.
I love the single tear that just comes down his eye.
Yes,
His mate's just poking his face off.
And the thing is as well, like when I was watching that bit, and I'm like, once again, physical practical effects, it looks fucking cool. You know, when the face, obviously it's a bit one of those sort of like images that if you see How to Wax images, like the iconography, you know, Sam Winchester there with half of his face ripped off is one of those like classic images from this movie. But it looks great. It looks, once again, it looks real. It doesn't look like, there are the odd moment where you're like, okay, you know, but also at the same time, he's covered in wax, so it's not necessarily going to look like ultra realistic as if it's a human. He's covered in wax, but it's just, it looks so good. And this is like the benefit of physical, practical special effects, you know, and how good they look. But then when I was watching this scene, I was like, yeah, that looks so fucking cool. But then I kept on thinking to myself, and I was just like, that would really fucking suck, like being alive, like, and then covered in wax, and you're just sitting there, and you can't talk, you know, like obviously because he's moving his eyes, as you said, and that's what reminded me of it. Like, you know, he's got the single tear.
Yeah.
You feel everything. So this guy that's fucking poking him in his face constantly, ripping his fucking, clawing his face off, he feels everything, and that would be really fucking shit. Like, you know, like that's a pretty bad way to go.
Yeah, the worst. I stand by it. He got the worst death in this film.
Yeah, because it's like it's continuous. Like it's not just like a one and done. Like he gets his Achilles heel, and then he gets all the wax like turned into wax, and he's going through all the pain of the wax, and then you get like old dumbass poking his fucking face constantly and ripping that off, and then he's alive through it all. I mean, some say he's still alive today. He's still sitting there. Well, he won't be sitting there; it all burnt down. But we get to that. But yeah. So obviously, you know, that bit's fucking gross. It's a bit messed up. And as I said, I mean, it'd be a pretty bad way to die. You know, he can still feel absolutely everything. It's pretty gnarly. But anyways, the guy who keeps killing people that looks like Tommy Wiseau, he chases after the guy from Scary Movie. Obviously, we know that he's going to be next to die, which he does. He gets his head cut off by some really cool looking knives. Those knives look really fucking cool. I don't know what it was that they had on them. I don't know if they were like dragon heads or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a pale ending, wasn't it? They looked awesome.
Yeah, it's like one of those things, like I always say, this comes up on quite a lot of the episodes, but there's always like random things where it's like, rather than like in movies having like the big fucking props, you know, like things like that, you know, like there's always like really cool little things in movies that I like for example, I'd love one of John Doe's books from Seven, you know, and sit there and reading that. But I would love to have the knives that he has from House of Wax, which is like, everybody be like, why do you want them? And I'm like, because they're fucking cool, that's why. But yeah, that guy, he gets his head lopped off, looks really cool, and also the knives look cool as fuck. The brother and sister duo, they are still locked in the garage, or garage, depends where you live in the world. And we do get some more poor line delivery, such as they're wax. Don't you understand? They're all wax.
I had that written down there in my notes as well.
Oh, great. Yeah, I mean, there is some awful fucking acting in this movie, but also sometimes, you know, you sit there and you go, that's really bad, but then you're laughing at it, and then that adds to the charm of it. And that's what's great about these movies, is that, and I even said about it earlier on, Prom Night, that movie's fucking shit. But did I enjoy my experience? Or if I watch it now, do I still enjoy my experience watching that movie? Yeah, because I sit there and I might be laughing at it because it's shit, but I'm still enjoying it. So that's the thing, is with horror, even if it's like, if it's cheesy shit and it's bad acting and bad writing, it adds to the charm to it because it's still fun. Sometimes you're just watching horror movies that are just flat out shit, and that sucks. But if you're watching, as I said, even a movie like Prom Night, which I think is a huge pile of shit, I still like, if somebody said to me we'll watch it tomorrow, I'll be like, yeah, all right, because it's fucking fun, you know what I mean? And that's what's great about this movie, is the fact that it's still fun when, even when you get awful lines like that, and there's a lot of them in it. um we do cut back to the campsite where Paris Hilton. Oh, we haven't heard from Paris Hilton for a long time, but Paris Hilton and her boyfriend. Remember, as I said, Paris Hilton is actually in this. Where, of course, in this movie, she has to get at least half naked. If you're going to have Paris Hilton, her job in this movie, sadly, is to be sexualized. But that's essentially what this. That's what you're going to do with her. It doesn't go overly well for her because her boyfriend, he gets killed. He pretty much has not much to do in this movie whatsoever, but he gets killed, and then she absolutely legs it. Of course, she's half naked. She tries to hide, but she does a really shit job of it because she gets a pole right through her head, and she is definitely dead. Hopefully there's no metaphors in there whatsoever for the pole going into her head, but I'm sure that that's probably why they did it and didn't tell her. But I don't know if she's as bad in this as everybody says, because she
Thank
got
you.
a fucking Razzie
Yeah,
for this.
I was gonna say that in my notes. I don't actually think she is anywhere near as bad as everybody makes out that she is. If anything, I think she's pretty smart. I think she knew what she was doing at the time. Definitely signing up to this film and a couple of other bits that she was doing at the time. She did like a National Lampoon's film. And I think she was smart enough to lean into the hate, and like we'll get into, the cast was built around her. She was one of the first ones hired for the job, and the Warner Brothers built the rest of the cast around her. She went to Warner Brothers and went, listen, can I print a load of t-shirts that say watch Paris die May 6th? And Warner Brothers were like, yeah, take my money. And yeah, so she's definitely nowhere near as bad as everyone makes out. Bit of a hot take, I think Alicia Cuthbert is not great in this film.
No, I mean, I think the thing is, and I think there is a big difference between like the cast in this and then some of the other like reboots and stuff like that. Like, I would consider like you have some pretty damn decent performances in, like, once again, the reboot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, like,
Oh,
there
definitely.
is like one of the scenes, like, which is like the worst death scene in that. From what I remember, from what I think, there's, you know, they have like almost like they do like the gender reversal of the Hook kill, and it
Yeah,
ends up being
yeah.
the guy. And you know, the performance in that, you're really feeling everything in that sort of like in that scene, and it's so well directed, so well performed. This movie isn't really that. So like, it's interesting to see the difference between it. But I think you're right. The difficult thing with Alicia Cuthbert is it's difficult to like to say anything because she is one of the most beautiful women that I've
Of
ever seen in
course,
my life.
of course.
So that's the thing. So but you're right. But once again, it's like the whole like, it's, I feel so sorry for them as actors to get such a shit fucking script that they have to say. But I do feel sort of, I feel sorry for Paris Hilton for the fact that she either got nominated or she won a Razzie for this. And a Razzie, for people that don't know, is basically the opposite of the Oscars, where like rather than being the best movies and the best performances, it's the worst performances and the worst movies and so on like that. And she got nominated or won one for this,
She
and
won,
I was
yeah,
just
she won
like,
it.
and you're like, I think it's sadly it's like the hate train for Paris Hilton. That's the sad part of it, isn't it? And I'm like, don't be so fucking horrible to her, because she does everything she needs to in this fucking movie. And I do feel really sad for her, because I'm like, I mean, there is some bad performances in this, and I wouldn't say she was great, put bad in this. And also, when she dies, does she sell the fact that she's like pretty bloody scared about dying? Yeah, she does a good job. And I've seen some people who don't look like they're scared of dying in movies. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that she gets too much fucking stick for being bad in this movie, when I don't think she's awful. Is she great? No. But is anybody great in this movie? Absolutely
No.
fucking not.
She doesn't even have that
Apart from,
many lines, really, so we can't really judge her full acting capability. She sold what she needed to sell. Uh, yeah.
exactly, yeah. And although I was going to say what she does well is sell herself, I don't mean that she's a prostitute. What I mean is that she is very good at marketing herself, in regards to, she knows that she was Paris Hilton, and she knows that people were paid to see Paris Hilton because, like you said, you know, like, unfortunately, it's like, it's the hate train that whatever that Paris Hilton got back then. You know what I mean? And she knew that she could sell herself on that, because, you know, ka-ching. And to be honest, fair fucking play to her. You know what I mean? But back with the brother and sister, where they're trying to get a weapon from a shop, where all they can find is the most fucking useless, impractical weapon in horror, a crossbow. I don't really get this. But crossbows fucking suck. Everybody knows that. If you're the person in a horror movie that gets left with a crossbow, you're fucked. But the man in black, he comes back and he's got a better weapon because he's got a big fucking shotgun and he tries to shoot him, but of course he misses. And then the brother and sister, basically they have this bit is another bit that annoyed me because once again it's another horror trope. Basically, this guy comes with a shotgun, but Chad Michael Murray, it all sort of happens. The shotgun ends up going away. I think Alicia Cuthbert gets the shotgun. For one, she leaves the fucking shotgun. That does my head in. I'm like, come on, just take it with you. Like, just in case you can Resident Evil it and find ammo in a drawer or something, like, you know what I mean? But instead, she just fucking leaves the shotgun almost pretty much right next to the guy. And the man in black, he gets shot with the crossbow, but Chad Michael Murray is right in front of him and still fucking misses him. And this is why a crossbow is shit.
When he takes the crossbow from the shop as well, you can see there's no arrows in it at all. So fuck knows where he's managed to pull them from.
Yeah, I know, that's it. But once again, crossbows are shit. Don't use them as weapons. And two, once again, bad horror trope because we know that guy is going to come back. Obviously in real life, headshot, done. And then you've actually used a crossbow well. But don't leave the shotgun and make sure, like, kick him in the head or something like that. You know what I mean? Just make sure that he's never coming back. Sidney Prescott can do it. She knows that you've got to do it before. Why can't Chad Michael Murray? But obviously when he shaved his head, he lost some brain cells for it. I don't know. But anyway, so she leaves the shotgun anyway, but they basically, the brother and sister, they basically head to the local cinema. They hide out, which is where basically that scene as well. And basically this scene, I like this scene because of how I like this scene because of how it looks. Because they're in a cinema and it looks cool and you've got all the people, as wax behind it. But the problem is, as a scene, it just doesn't fucking work because there's too many things that make it illogical.
Yeah.
Like, they're just literally sitting there. Like, you could just literally hide fucking somewhere, but instead they sit there in a seat as if he's not going to know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, as if he's not going to know. Like, she's just sitting there like that. I'm definitely waxed. Don't worry about me. And she's not waxed. And it's almost as if he's going to look round and be like, nah, she ain't fucking there, is she? But yeah, so I hate that. And as I said, it just keeps on like going from like that to the shotgun being left to him not getting shot in the head by a crossbow. And then you're like, now it's like we've got to the point where the movie's just doing things for the movie's sake because you've got to get near the fucking end of the movie. And I that really does my head in. Anyway, they end up legging it. And then of course they can't get the car to work. Or find the keys, so they, of course, head back into the Man in Black's house. Another stupid mistake, where, of course, nothing at all is going to go wrong, is it? Which, obviously, it will. In the house, we will learn a little bit more about the brothers, the twins, at the start of the movie, because if you haven't fucking guessed it, the Man in Black and Tommy Wiseau, looking alike, they're the brothers from the start, because, of course, we're not idiots. We already know that. What a bloody surprise. But they keep on, like, doing shots where as if we're not supposed to know that. And I'm like, are you stupid? I mean, maybe I'm stupid, I don't know. But they keep on doing little things and paper clippings or things on the wall or whatever. And you're like, yeah, we know that they're like the twins from the start. What are you trying to like say? You know what I mean? There's nothing clever about it. The brother and sister, they have to hide from the Man in Black who has returned. And so is his Tommy Wiseau brother, who he treats like absolute shit. But I do like the fact that we actually get a scene. I like the fact that we do get them together. Sometimes in movies, like most of the time it's just one killer, and it's nice that you've got two. But I do like the fact that they're actually interacting with each other. That I do like that.
I like the fact that obviously, I mean, we look at it today and we go, oh yeah, that's fucking obvious that they're the twins. And after we see the way Bo, I think his name is, we'll call him Johnny Cashman. He's so horrible to his brother that we soon realised that Bo is actually the one that they were chaining down at the start of the film, and Vincent was the good one. I do actually like that little twist. doesn't come across too well, but I think that was a nice little touch. There's a couple of things throughout. You mentioned the theatre scene before. They're playing what happened to Baby Jane, or whatever happened to Baby Jane, on in the theatre, which is, if no one knows, is a classic film about two twins, and one's trying to fuck over the other one.
I'm glad you told me that, because I was trying. Basically, my plan was, I was like, when I've done this, I need to find out what movie that was, and then I forgot. So I'm glad that you told me that.
Yeah, whatever.
But I
happened
thought to
Baby
myself,
Jane?
wouldn't it have been cool if they managed to, if they put the original House of Wax on the screen?
100%.
The fact that they didn't do that, I mean, maybe that's like a rights thing. I don't know. Maybe it was, but that would've been
Nice
cool.
little touch as well, that the other brother, Tommy Wiseau, is called Vincent as well, which I think is a nice little nod to Vincent Price as well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But the brother and sister at this point, of course, they're trying to evade capture. They head further into the house with some stupid thing that they can't. That basically, there's another scene that I really do hate. Like, as we go further into this movie, we start getting like moments where I'm like, oh man, this is getting really bad now. Like, as in the decisions, like it's the movie making decisions that affect movies like this, because things have to happen in this movie for the next scene and then the scene after that, but there's no logicality to it whatsoever. And that's when I start like getting really annoyed by movies. So in this scene, as they go further in the house, basically all the lights go out. Oh no, they're trying to like figure out, they can't see where they're going, where they are, so they have fuse boxes, and rather than looking at them, they are fucking flicking
them.
every fucking switch. Like, there is, and of course at this point it's in throughout the house. So then obviously, like, you know, the man in black, Johnny Cash, and Tommy Wiseau, they know exactly where they are, because they're like, oh, they're just by all the fucking trip switches and the electrical boxes and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, I hate that, because like, I know if I'm going down there, if I see a thing and I'm like trying to evade capture from these people that are absolutely going to kill us, I'll just figure myself a way around in the dark. You know what I mean? Like, I just make sure I've got a weapon. Yeah, I'm not going fucking like playing Beethoven on fucking trip switches. You know what I mean? And also, I know nothing about electrics, so I wouldn't be doing it anyway. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, these, you know, like, they're almost like try and create characters that like, they're trying to make these characters do the right things, but they keep on making them do the wrong things, of what like is completely illogical for what real human beings do in situations like this, just for the purpose of the movie going A, B, and C, and it's got to get somewhere. And I hate it. It does my head in, because it means it's written badly. Anyway, Waxman, Tommy Wiseau, catches up to them with his fancy knives. I still want them. Where they all have a fight and a fire breaks out. They let it back through the house. They leg it back through the house of Wax, where the man in black beats the absolute crap out of Chad Michael Murray, which is I enjoyed, and punches Alicia Cuthbert right in the face. He does as well. Once again, child abuse,
punch, don't you?
I know, and you get child abuse and, you know, battery of women in this as well. So they didn't give a fuck, you know what I mean? Which is awful. You know, once again, don't hit kids, don't hit women, don't hit anyone, if anything. But, you know, but they beat the crap out of Chad Michael Murray. She gets a punch to the face, right in the face. But the fire has got worse and is now melting all of the house, which starts off looking cool as fuck. And we'll talk about that as well in a little bit as well. And I do really like how they do the camera work of Alicia Cuthbert when she starts. Basically, I think this is one of my favorite shots in the movie, because it felt very unique. And I do actually think this is something, and to be honest, it's a shot that when I watched the other day, it's something that's actually inspired me to add it into something that I would like to do, you know, like in the future movie things, you know, because sometimes I see shots or the way that it's done, and I'm like, that's a really creative way of doing it. But basically, she has the baseball bat, and she's basically, you've got the man in black on the floor, and she's hitting him with the baseball bat. But as she swings, it's almost a bit like The Shining, where you've got The Shining, and where every time Jack Nicholson's got the axe and he's hitting it into the door, the camera's going with him.
But
this way, it's almost like the reverse, because she's above him and it's doing it to the ground. So rather than like you just see her doing this, you actually see the full impact of her hitting him round the face with the baseball bat, and the camera follows the bat the whole way. And obviously he's getting battered and his face is turning and everything. And I sat there and I was just like, I always know when I really like am intrigued by a shot or really think something's really creative, because then I want to know how they did it. And I would actually really like to know like sort of how they did it. It's probably very simple, or it might be like a cut, like a hidden cut that we
Mm.
don't see. But there's like, once again, this is a movie that's House of Wax, that's a remake of a movie that a lot of people write off as being 28% movie on Rotten Tomatoes. But there's like the uniqueness, the creativity of the high level of filmmaking on a visual level. That to me is one of the reasons why like I would keep going back to this movie, because I love how it looks, and it looks very good. And once again, movies around this time looked really fucking good because they were getting a bit of money to do what could, and people were allowed to be creative. And once again, it's just a little shot that I've just spent 5 minutes talking about again, but it's just a shot of her smacking him around the face with a baseball bat. But it looks great, and it's not just the usual shot of somebody going mad with a baseball bat and you see nothing. You see it all, and it's really well shot. So once
Brutal
again,
as well, the way she's absolutely pummeling in his face, and you can see his skin split, and then the bones break, and oh yeah, it's brutal. It's so
yeah,
good.
it's really brutal. It looks fucking gnarly, and once again, kudos to them, for being creative and unique, showing it the way that they did. Tommy Wiseau comes back, and he's super sad about his brother. Of course, he's just been absolutely fucking bad. And they do a stupid horror thing once again where they run up the stairs. Remember, never run up the stairs, especially when they're fucking made of wax and they're melting. Also, here we have, obviously, there's more fighting, and we do see the Wax Brothers' real face, which is proper manky. Sadly, I'm pretty sure that it's CGI because it does look fucking shit.
Yeah.
I was gutted when I saw this the other day because I forgot that you actually see his face, and I was just like, why did they like the Dark Knight Two-Face it? Because that, like, obviously in the Dark Knight with Two-Face, they actually did have like a practical look of it, and it looked really cool. And then they changed it in the movie, made it CGI, and it looked shit. And they sort of like, it felt like that's what this was. I don't know if they actually had a practical one made and he wore it. But if I'm right, it looks like it's CGI and it looks really bad. And I was gutted about that because I'm like, you've done such great practical effects in it. All you've got to do is make his face look a bit manky, but I don't know why you would make a decision.
Maybe they
to do
ran
that
out of money.
CGI.
They spent it all on that wax.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they just brought every fucking candle that's ever been made, and they were like, "Sorry, we've got to CGI your face now, mate. Sorry." But yeah, they fall through this bit here as well. We see his real face, but they fall through the floor, which once again looks really fucking cool. Really cool camera shot of them falling through the floor, and it's all fully melting. They managed to escape through the wax wall with some pretty shocking CGI, but brilliant practical effects, and they are free because basically they're clawing through the sign. And once again, it's interesting because that bit where they're clawing through all the wax to try and get out, yes, probably wouldn't work. 2 does actually look very good because it's practical, but when they're like the house is melting, it looks like somebody's done like a crop filter where on the CGI where they're just move the bar down and the house is just like meh, and like it's just like it looks really shit. Where they're like green screened in, the color of them isn't like matching what they are. And it once again, it's just like it's the inclusion of like CGI where like it's a bit different now because of course CGI is advanced to what it is now, and now everything is mostly replaced by CGI, and we are slowly getting back to the time of practical effects because it's fucking the best thing in the world. That's why I fell in love with horror, is practical effects and the wizardry and the magic that goes behind real people are making these real things. And when you see that in House of Wax, you're like, how fucking cool is that? It looks great. And then you have the CGI bits and you're like, how fucking shit is that? Why did they do it? But also at the same time, yeah, it's probably difficult to put real life actors inside a melting house, so the risk is probably a lot better for them if they did it CGI rather than melting Chad Michael Murray and Alicia Cuthbert. They've been through enough, bless them.
They might as well go all in. Fucking Alicia Cuthbert glued their mouth shut, so they might as well go whole hog and throw a couple of actors into a fire.
Yeah. Why not? Absolutely, yeah. But they, of course, they're free. The Rozzers, they turn up. Rozzers and Medical, they turn up. They've arrived on the scene and give a bullshit reason as to why no one knew about this. They're like, they just like, yeah, no one fucking knew or whatever. And then we get a super cheesy reveal at the end that we find out that they didn't just have two brothers. There was three. And the guy that they stereotypically created at the start of the movie to be the most generic redneck guy in the world, presumably he is their third brother. Is that right?
Yeah.
But also, it doesn't really make sense the ending, because you're like, well, he doesn't seem like he's really bad. So like, what are they? Like, what are they setting up there? You know what I mean? Like they're like setting up, like if they'd have done a thing like at the end where he was like almost like Doofy in like Scary Movie, the end of Scary Movie. If they'd have made him put on the Man in Black's jacket and a cigarette and just walks off, doesn't limp anymore, like, you know, fucking Usual Suspects, then I would get it. You know what I mean? And he like walks away with those cool looking daggers.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like they don't really set anything up by that. They're like, oh, you know, that thing. There wasn't two of them, there was three of them. And there was three brothers, and then it cuts to him, and all he's doing is sitting there going,
Stroking
bye.
the dog, isn't he? Bye.
And he's just like, all right, well, what's he doing? He's just being a nice lad. Earlier on, he was misinterpreted. He just gave him a lift. He's nothing wrong with this guy. So unless, you know, I don't know, unless they were planning on doing like a House of Wax too. I don't know.
I read that there were a couple scenes cut out, but apparently, because the whole thing is who cut the fan belt on Jared Padalecki's car, because it wasn't Bo, because he'd driven off. So apparently, Lester is the name of the hillbilly character, because of course. He's the one who brings the victims to the brothers. He cuts the fan belt, offers them a lift into town, and then Bo and Vincent do the rest.
Oh, okay.
But it is not put across in that way at all. Do you know what I mean? We only see him for 5 minutes, if that, earlier on in the film, and then we're expected to remember him an hour and 40 minutes later.
Well, I mean, really, he's like the nicest person in the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just there at the end stroking his dog, saying, "See you later, everyone. I'd come back to town." You know, so I feel sorry for him, but yeah, they sort of set up something that was just fucking anticlimactic. But they get away. Of course, in the ambulance, and then it ends with some My Chemical Romance, and then let this movie be a reminder to always make sure that your candles are out before you go to bed. That's the main moral of this story. That's what they set out to achieve when it came to this movie. They just wanted to make sure that people were safe with candles, and that's the entirety of the movie. It just basically ends with some guy waving. That's it. General conversation wise, of course, you know, this is before we get into overall thoughts and production info and all that sort of stuff. Is there any like extra bits that we didn't talk about that you would like to talk about, or anything like that?
There's a couple things that bothered me, going back to Paris Hilton's death. When they first initially set up that little camp and have the party, they say that the 15 miles away from the nearest town. But when it comes to Paris Hilton's death, she literally runs for less than 60 seconds and she's in the wax warehouse somehow. That always blew my mind. You brought it up then, the police excuses at the end of the film for why no one knew about this town, no one knew what they were doing, and no one knew that all these people were going missing. The town would still be on a map. It might not be on the most current map, but it would be on a map, and surely the law states that you'd have to keep checking in on this town, because if it's abandoned, then you could get all sorts. You get smackheads and people causing drama. So it was absolutely baffling, the police exposition at the end of the film there.
As an ending, it's a pretty damn shit ending.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't necessarily like. It's fine to have almost sort of a happy ending in a way that two people survive and they get away. So it is essentially, you know, a somewhat happy ending. Loads of people die. I mean, it's a horror movie. Some people survive, but once again, it's like the movie making decisions, the writing decisions that let this movie down a lot. Conversation wise, as I said, there's only a few things I'll go through really quickly. For one, this movie is nearly 2 hours long. It doesn't need to be fucking 2 hours long. This sometimes there's a lot of this movie is a fucking slog to try and get through. Once again, there's too many dialogue scenes. There's too many like character scenes that don't need to be in it. They try and develop characters when one, I don't fucking like them anyway, so you don't need to try and develop them because we know that the purpose for them is to die. So it's almost like spend a little bit more time figuring out cool ways for them to die rather than doing more dialogue scenes. Should have been way shorter. Like, I think this movie, you can cut this to an hour and a half, probably an hour and a half, hour and 40 it would have flowed better, and you would have taken out all the shit that I've slagged off. One thing that I fucking love about this is the score and music in this movie. So when we talk about the music in regards to the artists, I miss this fucking time. I miss the time when we were getting some of the greatest bands making music. Whether it was music for movies, whether it, in particular, whether it was music that was coming off their new albums, and sometimes you heard the songs before the new album that came out. But this one, as I said, you've got Deftones on it, Marilyn Manson, Disturbed. I miss the time when so many of these movies had of course, it's about making money, right? But it also, the fucking music is fucking awesome. So it's just it's great. So I do miss the time that we had, because we don't have that anymore. Do we?
No. I don't think so. I always think, going back to our point, that films just aren't like this anymore, and more to the point, I don't remember, other than Stranger Things and stuff like that. I don't think I've seen something horror related where they've used current music to kind of be the backbone of what's going on. Yeah, that whole 1999 2005 new metal period is just fucking peak perfection for me. If you've got new metal on your score, it's a fucking you've already won in my book.
I mean, we literally had to go on a car ride earlier today, and I was listening to Deftones, Marilyn Manson. That's literally what I listen to. So I am a product of my generation, and I always say I am so grateful to grow up. I'm an old man, but I'm so grateful to have grown up when I did. And I do miss, also music has changed. So, at that time, this music was obviously what some of the most popular music in the world, whereas now, as great as Deftones, Marilyn Manson, all that sort of stuff, the music is and was, it's not necessarily popularized. So now it'd be quite difficult probably to have a horror movie with Taylor Swift in it, I guess, singing love songs when somebody's getting their Achilles heels cut or stuff. I mean, it'd be an interesting experiment, but I don't think it would hit as hard as fucking Marilyn Manson. But the other side of that as well, really quickly, is the music's cool, and I miss that time, but I also miss when we had scores like this, where we had that sort of proper cinematic horror movie score that was properly orchestrated. This one's it's composed by John Ottman, and I missed when horror movie soundtracks and scores were composed like this. They were creepy, they sounded great, but also you remember the music from these movies, and you're like, how great is this score? And it works with the movie.
Do you know what else he scored as well?
What?
Do you know what other horror movies he scored in that kind of time period as well? There's
go and tell
many.
me.
Halloween H2O, Urban Legends 1 and 2, Gothica, Ghost Ship, House on Haunted Hill. What a back.
Yeah, John Ottman's an absolute legend. But I really miss score like this, because I think once again, it's another thing that I feel a lot of modern day horror is missing once again, is scores and music. I think there are movies, sadly, and Stranger Things really is to fucking blame for this, but so many horror movie scores now, because it's quite easy. That's wrong. It's not easy to make a synth score, but sometimes it might be easier to smash the shit out of a keyboard than have a full-on orchestra. And especially if you're doing low budget movies, you know, then you're going to get like these great synth artists and stuff like that, as they did with, you know, Stranger Things
Yeah.
and stuff. But that synth score since Stranger Things obviously has been very popularized, and it sounds great. I mean, synthwave is some of my fucking great favorite music that I listen to all the time. But um it almost like every soundtrack at the moment is like a synth sort of soundtrack to horror and stuff. Even some movies that I've loved recently, I'm like, oh, that's a little bit of a shame that they're going with a synth soundtrack rather than a proper
Proper
horror
score.
movie score. And once again, I miss it. And I wish horror would go back to some things that made horror work so well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. Just hearing you say that has just kind of made me think. Don't you reckon it felt like this time period in particular that every horror film that was coming out felt like it was made specifically for you, with the soundtrack, with the score, with remembering certain scenes and certain actors from TV shows that you grew up watching. You just don't get that anymore. Films these days are made the two mass. They're made for the masses is what I'm trying to say, as opposed to, I feel like a lot of films back then, they felt personal, they felt like they were made for me and you, and it's a shame we've lost that element in horror a little bit. We sound like fucking moaning bastards here. Listen, we're not saying that, at least I'm not anyway, saying that every horror movie that comes out now is rubbish and it's crap and we're wearing these nostalgia tinted glasses. That's not the case. I just think that films of this ilk, of this time period, were just, we'll never get it again. I don't think we will ever get this style of horror again, unfortunately. But it still exists, so we can always go back and watch it. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, the iconography of horror exists for a reason. And the further that we move away from that, the more we're going to keep looking back rather than going forward. And that's the problem. Is, for me personally, you know, there are some really good horror movies that are coming out, especially recently. You know, we're getting some fantastic horror movies that are coming out at the moment. And we have, you know, we do get them, but it's a lot, it feels like we're getting a lot harder to come by having fantastic horror movies than you know, or movies that are all right than really good horror movies, or horror movies that are going to create the next iconography of the next 20, 30 years. But when I talk about the scores, the music, the cinematography, the way that these movies look, that is part of the iconography of horror, and that is part of the reason why that is horror has lasted, because of the iconography of what that has created. And when we move away from that, well, then that's why a lot of these movies don't last. They don't have the iconography. And we all know that sound is something that is incredibly important to horror. Like sound, like the Evil Dead movies, I say it all the time, are a prime example of why sound, music, score is so important to these movies. They are the masterpiece example of why that is so important. And I feel like that's what we should be taking note of, you know, of going, right, that's what's important to drive the iconography of horror, rather than every horror movie feeling like it's got to have a synth score. Because it's cheaper, but at the same time, is it having the impact that a proper horror movie score would have? So yes, it is a little bit sounding like we're moaning old men, but it's not that. It's about understanding why or what makes horror as iconic as what it is. And when you start taking that away, then what happens to horror when 20, 30 years comes down the line? And I can still sit here and talk about how good a soundtrack House of Wax was from 2006, and how important that is to horror, even though the movie has a load of fucking stupid bits that happen in it. So yeah, I just think we need to bring back some things from horror that are lost now. Production info and facts. There's only a few, of course. On June 26th, 2004, a soundstage being used for the film burned to the ground during a test of special effects equipment. The fire started by a candle destroyed a studio at Warner Brothers Movie World on Australia's Gold Coast. One crew member was treated for burns to his arms, but no one else was injured. The smoke reached a nearby highway, which was not shut down. so basically it got really fucked up on set, and this movie was essentially a big part of what that fucked up stuff was. The film had a budget of around 40 million and made about 70 million worldwide. So didn't do great, but it did all right. Some people would call it unsuccessful. Some people might say it did all right. But a lot of the budget went on creating the small town of itself. Basically, the entire town was built for the movie. It wasn't a set that they found, like, it wasn't a location that they went out and scouted and found. They built the town of Ambrose, and it wasn't, an existing location. The crew built the entire set from scratch on a grassy field, laying out. They actually put water and electricity and everything into it, basically making it a full functioning town, which is fucking mental.
Incredible.
Because now everything's CGI.
Incredible.
And then the last thing that I've got is the movie's marketing went so far, and this is what you mentioned earlier on, as to allow Paris Hilton to sell T-shirts with the slogan "See Paris Die, May the 6th." So, fair play to her, because she knows where she's going to make her money. And once again, whatever, all the haters, they can hate her, but look at all that she got. You know what I mean?
I wonder if you can still buy them T-shirts somewhere. Like, I wonder if someone's selling one on
I mean,
eBay or
I do
something
want
like
one. They were pink T-shirts that literally said "See Paris Die, May the 6th." Do I want one? Yes. Would I wear it proudly? Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I would probably turn it into some sort of crop top or something like that. You know what I mean? But it'd be brilliant. Did you have any extra production info?
Yeah, I got a couple of bits. So 20 tons of beeswax were used for the making of this film, which I don't even think I can fathom how much wax.
It's a lot.
That is.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. That final scene in the bedroom where the bed is melting away, Alicia Cuthbert apparently kept on getting stuck in that bed, and the reason why is because the bed was made out of peanut butter, and obviously all the lights on it was just making it super hot and stinky, and she would literally get stuck inside the bed.
Also, that's a shame that was their lunch for the day as well. So that's that.
And then the last couple of bits that I got was, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the director's name. Jamais, we'll call him.
Fancy name director.
Do you know what they went on to do after? This was their first ever film, by the way. This was their directorial debut. And yeah, we can go on about all the things that were wrong. And a lot of it is to do with the script, really. But for the direction, what a fucking amazing first film. Like, all that practical effects, and obviously the soundstage burned down. That probably shit him up a little bit. And I think going through everything that he kind of went through, he still put out first-time director. He put out a really, really good film. But he went on to direct The Orphan and The Shallows. Mad.
Yeah, that's it. The Shallows is the one with Blake Lively,
the
shark
shark
one,
film,
isn't it?
yeah.
And that's decent. And then, of course, Orphan is about 30-year-old little person pretending to be a child, and it's really fucking weird. And also, funny enough, that's what I always, my partner always reminds me of her. So she's probably as small as her as well, actually. But yeah, it's I mean, you're exactly right. When it comes to him, you would not think, because I've spoken throughout this episode, like, the creativity level when it comes to, like, taking all the shit that I've said that, like, doesn't work, right? And the thing is that people have been making movies for years and years and years, still make movies that don't fucking work. So the fact that this is his, like, first movie is wild on a creativity level and a cinematic level, because there is, like I said, I've had 5-10 minute conversations about one fucking shot in this movie and how that is stored into my head and inspired me in regards to, like, how I can look at doing things creativity or doing things differently. And you don't do that unless you know how to make a fucking movie. So the fact that this is his first movie is absolutely wild. And it looks great. It's a really good looking movie. It really is. You're absolutely right. Well, we might as well move into our overall thoughts on the movie, because one, you already know how we bloody feel about this movie anyway, because we've spoken about it for the last hour and a half. But very quickly, what are your over? I always let my guests go first on everything, then I can think about mine because I have to think because I'm too shit, too fucking dumb. But what is your very quick overall thoughts on the movie?
It is an absolute time capsule of a film. Everything from the soundtrack, the tech, the little Nokia 3310s that they're all using, the clothes, the video camera, the TV stars. I think if I ever have children one day, this is one of them films that I can't wait to show them. And when they turn around and go, "Daddy, what was it like in 2005, 2006?" I can turn around and go, "Well, here you fucking go.
Yeah,
It was a wild time. This is what
yeah,
it was like." Yeah, I mean, it's just a shame. Films aren't a spectacle enough anymore. Yeah, we've got it a little bit with Obsession and Back Rooms, but I didn't think there was any fun with them films. Like, my favorite subgenre is the slasher film. I know people have many different opinions on the slasher genre, but it's just one of them that I've always kind of taken to. Even the horrendous ones are still worth a watch in my eyes. But yeah, it's just it's great to I'll put this in a time capsule and give this to somebody and be like, "You want to know what it was like when I was 15, 2005? Take a look at this film." Yeah, it's an absolute gem. You can come out of it. It's perfect to watch on your own. I watched it with my partner last night, and we had an absolutely wild time. And I think if you got a couple of your mates together, couple smokes, couple drinks, you could have an absolute wild Friday night, like we did when I was 15 with my family. We all had a wild time watching that film, as ridiculous as it is.
yeah. You're exactly right. I mean, 100%. This is a product of its time, but it's a time that obviously people my age, and your age and so on, you will always ultimately and instantly get nostalgic for. But what I like about this movie is that there's more to enjoy than just the nostalgia
Yeah.
of this movie. And it is the same as a lot of these movies, like, like we said, House on the Haunted Hill and The Haunting as well, which I think is one that was always sort of forgotten about as well. There is, and of course, like I said, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot and so on like that. There is more than just the nostalgia of what these movies are in certain ones. Like I said, Prom Night, fucking shit. But it's still fun to watch, but it's still shit. But a movie like this, there is the uniqueness, the creativity of the visual medium of cinematic storytelling. The visual side of this movie is great. The CGI, shit. Yeah, absolutely. Acting, not great. But when I watched this the other day, did I really enjoy watching it? Yes. But also, did I feel like I was taken back in time? Yeah, absolutely. But I enjoyed that aspect of it. Maybe once again, if you're watching this now and you're not brought up in that time, then you might just think this is a fucking shit movie. 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. But like yeah, it just when essentially, is this a great movie? No. But is it a good movie? Absolutely. And that's enough because there's so many shit movies that I watch all the time. I'd much rather go back and watch a good movie like House of Wax. There are things that don't work. The runtime is way too long. But there are enough things in this that still in 2026, which is now this movie's like, that's mental that this movie's
20
like
years
20
old.
years old. Which is mental because that goes to show how old I am because I feel like this movie was like 2 months ago. Like when I watched this movie, I remembered it beat by beat, everything that sort of happens in it. And it's mad that these movies are now like 20 something years old, but I do like the fact that we still talk about them. And once again, it comes back to like the iconography of horror is that even though this was a time that everybody got fucking sick of because every movie was a remake, was a reboot, and it got awful because they were getting worse and worse and worse because all it was it was essentially like the Blumhouse. It was
Yeah.
like all about we found something that works and we're going to just keep doing it and churning it and making more money until it fucks itself over, just like Blumhouse has done. And then it sort of like goes back to where it started, and then it just reinvents itself, so to speak, which is obviously what recently Blumhouse have started doing again, and now they're becoming successful again with some great movies. And that's what horror just keeps on doing. And it comes from, once again, it is you're exactly right. This is a product of its time. And but it's a product of its time that I always enjoy going back to, because I do miss these horrors, but at the same time I sort of get why we don't have them, because times have changed and tastes change and so on. And but also my love for Deftones will never die. Simple as that. But yeah, I do really enjoy this movie still. Let's move on to your first time. So of course this is the first time that Colin has been on the show, so I will ask him for his first time horror movie memory in a minute as well, if you can remember it. If not, just make it up. But this one is sent over to me on Instagram by retro.media. That's at retro.media. As I said, you can go and follow them on Instagram. They put, when I was 7 years old, my older sister would lock me in the bedroom with The Exorcist playing. Absolutely lovely, that is. You can imagine the terrifying scene she chose to play. Possessed Regan was the scariest thing I'd ever seen, followed by Pennywise from It. He was bigger, stronger, smarter, and more resourceful than me. But I did my best I could to retaliate, which was learn to walk backwards in a back bend, like what Regan did coming down the stairs, and chase her around the house. Maybe like my love for horror is all thanks to my ruthless older sister, who locked me in the room with The Exorcist, chased me with knives, and told me terrible stories about how someone was outside trying to break in the house and kidnap me. Lovely sister. Thanks again for at Retro Media for sending that over. Of course, it's such a fun. I enjoyed reading that, and I mean, that's a pretty fucked up start to life and to your horror journey.
I wonder who the
well.
evil twin is in that situation. Fucking hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. Just hope that nobody looks like Tommy Wiseau. There we go. But of course, as I said, Colin, what is your first time horror movie memory?
So this one is less of a memory and more of a fact. So apparently when I was younger, obviously being the evil twin, I was a little bit rambunctious, shall we say. Used to be a little devil causing all sorts of madness. And this one time, me mum had enough, and she was like, right, I'm going to fucking scare the shit out of him. So she sits me down and she puts on Nightmare on Elm Street, and she's like, listen, if you don't shut the fuck up, he's going to come and get you when you go to sleep tonight. Now, it went the complete opposite direction. Yeah, it kept me quiet, kept me stum, but it unlocked something in my mind, and ever since then, the only way to keep me quiet was to just stick a horror film on, and that's where that's where my love kind of came from. So slightly child abuse, but thank you for that, Mum, honestly.
Absolutely. You were just like, I think I could take Freddy, because guess what? Everybody can fucking take Freddy in the movies, because he is the worst fighter that's ever been in horror movies. He might be the absolute scariest in regards to concept and idea story of, a fucking dream demon with scissor fingers, but he can't fight for shit. So we all know that about Freddy. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it's always funny. And also what's funny is that I was a little shit as well, but unfortunately I was no twin. I didn't have anybody, but I was just a motherfucker. But there we go. So that is the episode. That is everything we've talking about House of Wax. Now is your time, Colin, to promote everything that you want to and that you do with This Movie Deserves Better podcast, which might be right or wrong.
No, that's correct. Yeah. So, like we say, yeah, I'm Cole from This Movie Deserves Better. It's a solo hosted podcast, unfortunately. Basically, I pick a new film every week, one that's usually been dismissed, overlooked, very much like House of Wax. Has a Rotten Tomatoes score that is just completely absurd, and I bring it back and we take another look through it. We go through the film, we talk about where it stumbles, and more importantly, why this particular film deserves better. And there's plenty of them out there, House and Wax being case in point. So you can find me on social media. Instagram is your best bet, at TMDB podcast. My DMs are always open. I'm always up for chatting about horror. If you've got movies that you think deserve better, then let me know, because I'm more than happy to talk about them on the show. And to kind to speak for both of us here. It is a little bit hard being a solo hosted podcast and being this independent. So any reviews, comments, feedback, listens, anything that you guys out there in the community can do to show a little bit support to lads like me and BP, it really does mean a lot. I know we always kind of use it as a tagline at the end of our episodes, but it really, really does mean a lot. Even just saying, listen, I didn't like that episode, or I like this part and didn't like that part. It really means a lot. And we just love talking about horror, like at the end of the day. And we want more people to talk to horror, to talk to about horror. That's all I can say on it, really. Just show your support. Even if it's not us, anybody that you love in the community, show your support, give them feedback when they ask for it, because it might not mean much to you, but it means the absolute world to us. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Absolutely. Well, everybody make sure that you go and support, as you said it there, and rightly so, you know, the same as me. I was going to say I then. Does that make the same as I? No, fuck it. I'm not clever enough. I'm not smart enough to say that shit. But yeah, like we both are on this journey through horror alone, and it is tough, as I always say. But it's very, very important for people to go and support everybody's journey, whether it's mine, whether it's Colin's, whether it's anybody's. If you enjoy content that they create, that I create, that Colin creates, go and share it on, go and support everything we do. But make sure you go and check out everything that Colin does, you know, on any podcast platform. Make sure you rate, review it. Also, as Colin said, if you want to message him, first of all, in his DMs, don't be a creep. That's a bit fucking weird. Second of all, if obviously, you know, if you've got any criticisms or, you know, about what he does, feel free to. Don't message me and tell me my episode is shit, because I'll find you and I'll smash your bloody face again. Because otherwise I'll get a load of messages and I'll have to find fucking all of you. But that's it. In regards to the Let's Talk Horror the channel, forgot what my podcast was called then. In regards to Let's Talk Horror, of course I have to close out the show by saying a massive thank you to my honorary creepazoids over on Patreon. We have Jamie, we have Rob, we have Leighton, we have Kate, we have Michael. They are people that are going above and beyond, supporting my journey over on Patreon with Let's Talk Horror. Of course, if you want to know more, head over to patreon.com, look for the Let's Talk Horror channel, or if I remember, there might be links on this video or on the audio version of where you listen to it, whether it's Spotify, Apple, wherever you are, there might be a link to go to Patreon. On Patreon, of course, there is exclusive content that doesn't go anywhere else. One being the Creep's Choice episodes, which is where they give me a movie to watch, and then I do basically, you know, a review pretty much straight away after I've watched it, and it doesn't go anywhere else. It's only on Patreon. And as we all know, if you're on Patreon, pretty much every movie they give me is fucking shit. And they need to start giving me good ones, because here we've spoken about House of Wax, a movie that's really good and I like it. They could give me shit movies to talk about and I tell them how shit they are. But by the time this one comes out, I might have like a run of really bloody good movies. But you never know. But Patreon's fun. It's a great way of helping people be motivated into continue doing this. But also, it's a way to keep evolving, you know, independent channels as well. And it's just really good fun. So you've got Patreon. Of course, we're on all the socials. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to YouTube, first of all, you know I hate doing this shit. But also, don't fucking not subscribe. It's free. You just click the button that's right there that says subscribe and just leave it. And then I go, oh, I've got another subscriber, because I fucking haven't got many. So it'd be nice to have another one or two. But also we're available, of course, if you're listening to it, any podcast platform. If you're on Spotify, please rate and review it the highest you possibly can. Like you mentioned earlier on as well, Colin, that doing little things like this, like rating, reviewing, sharing it on, it has a bigger impact on independent channels more than you know. And it really does, because not only is it, you know, help shows reach new audiences and evolve, it is a massive motivator. And sometimes it is tough and you get demotivated and you do get down in the dumps doing this. But then you might see a review, you might see a high rating, you get a message to say, I listened to your episode and I really enjoyed it. Don't say you didn't, because I'll smash your face in. But it but people absolutely, like, you are the reason that any channel, podcast, YouTube channel has any success is because of you. We can sit here, record, edit, do all the good stuff, do all the shit stuff, release it. If it has any success, it's always going to be down to you. You will always play the biggest part in anything that we do. So make life a little bit easier on us by doing those little things before I come and smash your funny faces in. But there we go. That is the episode. Colin, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope
you
you
so much
it.
for having me, brother. I had an absolute ball. And if it did all right, I would be happy to come back and chat shit with you about horror anytime, brother.
Well, absolutely. I love having new guests and I love having return guests as well. All I care about is having great conversations about horror, whether they're movies that are products of the time as it is, whether the iconic movies of the genre, or whether it's the modern day movies. All I care about is having great conversations, and we have just had a great one about House of Wax. Anybody disagrees? But the funny thing is you'd have to watch the video from there. What I did, for anybody listening, I just gave you the middle finger. If you don't like it, for fuck it.
So did I.
But absolutely, you get the double fucking finger gun. There we go. But anyway, so that's the episode. Thank you for anybody that has watched or listened. Please continue to join me on my journey through horror, because I bloody love it, and I hope you're enjoying it too. But until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.